one. Okay, so again, I want to go over the rest of section 4.5, or 1-5, not 4.5, where'd that come from? And then give you guys time to work on either 1.4 or 1.5. Homework quizzes over 1.5 tomorrow. Okay, so number 39. Again, this is section 1-5. And I don't know if I told you this or not, but section 1.6 is the last section of the chapter, so plan on having a test in here, I don't know, maybe a week from Tuesday or a week from Thursday, I'm guessing. One of those 2 days, I'm guessing. Okay, so we have 39. We have x squared minus 6x plus 13 is 0. Okay. Okay, from Algebra 2, you guys know that this one has two solutions. It's quadratic, has two solutions. You can try and factor this thing, but I mean, if you remember, the little trick, timesing to 13, adding to -6, there's only one way to times to 13. 1 times 13, okay? So, and not only that, what's this section about? Imaginary numbers, so this ain't gonna factor, okay? So you want to use the quadratic formula. I will tell you this, on our test that we take next week sometime, you're gonna need the quadratic formula, and I will not give it to you. You gotta have that thing memorized. If you forgot it, write it down. It's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all over 2a. All of it's over 2a, okay? So, in case you forgot how to do it, a, b, and c, on this particular problem, a is the number in front of the x squared, which is a 1. B is the number in front of the x, which is -6, and c is 13. And then you just plug stuff in. The opposite of b is +6, plus or minus the square root of b squared is -6 squared, which is +36, minus 4 times a times c, 1 times 13 is 13, over 2 times a, 2 times 1. Okay? So we're just plugging stuff in, we're not done yet. Plugging stuff into the quadratic formula, then simplifying it. Then we multiply before we subtract, so 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 4 minus 13 is 52. Easy way to remember that. If you play cards, it's 4 suits. Each suit has 13 cards, 52 cards in a deck. 36 minus 52 is -16. Radical 16 is 4. So radical -16, remember, negatives inside radicals are imaginary. So if radical 16 is 4, radical -16 is 4i. 6 plus or minus 4i over 2. And then we divide each of those by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Plus or minus 4 divided by 2 is 2. So our two answers, we said there was going to be two answers. The two answers are 3 plus 2i and 3 minus 2i. Okay? So there are, and again, get it out of your, some students think, well, imaginary ones, they don't count. Imaginary numbers are numbers, okay? If you were to plug in, I'm not going to do it, if I was to plug in 3 plus 2i for both of these x's and simplify it, you'd get 0. If I was to plug in 3 minus 2i for both these x's and simplify it, you'd get 0. Okay? It's no different than this. If I asked you to plug in, if I gave you this question right here and I said, what is the whole number answer to this? What is the whole number answer to 2x equals 5? You'd say, there isn't one. There is no whole number answer. This is a decimal answer. Okay? The answer is 2.5. Okay? 2 times 2.5 is 5. There is a decimal answer. Okay? What is the real answer to this? There are no real answers, but there are two imaginary answers. Okay? So imaginary numbers are numbers. Okay? 41. X squared plus 4x plus 13 is 0. X squared plus 4x plus 13 is 0. And I didn't say it on the last one because we didn't really need to worry about it, but it's supposed to equal 0, and it does equal 0, so that's good. Okay, these all equal 0 on these ones. So A, B, and C are 1, 4, and 13. You can try and factor it, but again, to times to 13, there's only one way to times to 13, but they don't add up to 4, so this thing is not going to factor. Okay, so negative b is -4, plus or minus the square root of b squared is 16, minus 4 times 1 times 13 is 13, over 2a, over 2. -4 plus or minus 16 minus 4 times 13 is 52. 16 take away 52 is -36. Okay, over 2. And be careful, some students think, is 2 always on bottom? Well, 2a is on bottom. 2 is on bottom if a is 1. If a was 4, you'd have 2 times 4, you'd have 8 on bottom. Okay, so you have -4. Radical -36 is 6i. Divide each of those by 2, you have -2 plus or minus 3i. Okay, 43. we're only gonna go to 45. If you wanna cross off 45 and 46, go ahead. Okay, or, not, I'm sorry, cross off 47, 48, I'm sorry. So, the last one we're gonna do is number 45. So 43, x squared minus 5x plus 20. Minus 5x plus 20 is 0. Again, this doesn't factor. So, I'm not gonna write A, B, and C equals. I mean, you should be able to tell me A is 1, B is negative 5, and C is 20. So negative B is positive 5, plus or minus the square root of B squared, negative 5 squared is 25, minus 4 times A times C is 1 times 20, which is 20, over 2 times 1, which is 2. So 5 plus or minus, I'm going to skip a step here. 4 times 20 is 80. 25 minus 80 is negative 55 over 2. 55, I mean, we know it's going to be imaginary because there's a negative inside the radical. 55 is not a square. Anybody know what square goes into 55 besides 1? Let's split off the squares. 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Anybody know what goes into 55 besides 1? Nothing. So the only thing you can do is let's pull this negative out. So it's 5 plus or minus I radical 55 over 2. Yeah, there is no square that goes into 55 besides 1. Now I do want to make sure you guys understand this also. We haven't talked about this. We talked about it in Algebra 2. If I graph this thing, you guys know it's a parabola, okay? Second degree. How many places does it touch the x-axis? Second degree. Got to be careful, okay? If it's second degree, it could touch the x-axis in 2 spots, but since they're both imaginary, it doesn't touch it. So it looks sort of like this. That parabola has no real answers because it doesn't touch the x-axis, okay? Or it could have possibly went like this, but it doesn't because that's a positive, so it's got to open up, okay? So the number of solutions, number of real solutions is the number of x-intercepts. All right, last one, 45. 4x squared plus x plus 3 equals 0. Okay? So, negative b is negative 1 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 1 squared, which is 1, minus 4 times a times c. 4 times 3 is 12. Over 2a, over 2 times 4, which is 8. See, 2 is not always on bottom. Clean this thing up. 4 times 12 is 48. 1 minus 48 is negative 47. Anybody think of a square that goes into 47 besides 1? There's not one. So, negative 1 plus or minus I radical 47 over 8. Okay, questions on these? Sir?
Okay. Kind of missed the end a little bit there. So when you take the radical of negative 55, because it doesn't really cleanly square root, is that why you put the I in front of it?
Well, just because of this. I mean, we're simplifying it. I mean, if I gave you this right here, if I gave you, like for example, radical 75, that's radical 25, what did I just wrote there, times radical 3, and radical 25 is 5 radical 3. This is this simplified. If I gave you radical negative 11, that's radical negative 1 times radical 11, and radical negative 1 is I.
Oh, got it.
When you're simplifying radically, you're trying to take as much out of the radical as you can. The only thing we can take out is the negative. When we take a negative out of radical, it's I.
Okay.
So that's it. Yeah, I jumped over that really quick. So, all right, questions on this? So let's do this. You got about a half hour. In a half hour, I'm going to give you the questions on the homework quiz. Okay. I would definitely go as far as number 50. Okay. So, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Okay. And then again, if you're done with 1-4, great. Work on 1-5. If you're done with that, even better. You got the rest of the hour. Tomorrow, you can work on section 1-5 until the end of the hour, and then you'll have the whole hour except for the last 15 minutes or so when we do our homework quiz. Okay. Okay. Are there any questions over 1-4 you want to go over?
Yeah, can you help me with
On number 50? I knew you were going to say that.